I remember every night in my grandmother's courtyard. The air smelled of roasted corn, and the stars glimmered like they were listening. She would clear her throat, lean closer to the fire, and say, Asake mi owo, meaning, my dear Asake. Stories are not just to make you laugh, they are lamps for your journey. Those words never left me. And today, I want to share 3 tales that shape the way I see life. They are old, but their lessons never grow old. So come closer, let the fire warm you as we begin. My first story for today, titled The Tortoise and the Drum. Long ago, before greed and pride became common among men, there lived a tortoise named Ijapa, small in body, but with a mind that could outwit even the gods. He was clever, charming, and endlessly hungry for more. He was hungry for more food, more fame, and more praise. One season, when the earth was dry and hunger walked from earth to earth, the sky god decided to hold a great feast in the heavens. He announced that there would be lots of yam pottage swimming in palm oil, roasted plantain, spicy stew, and sweet honey drink. But there was one condition. Only those who could reach the sky could attend. As we all know, that the tortoise has no wings, but his tongue was sharper than a blade and smoother than butter. He went to his friends, the birds, and said, My dear brothers and sisters, we have shared laughter, we have shared rain. Shall we not also share in this great feast? Please, lend me your feathers, just for today. The birds murmured among themselves. They knew Ijapa's ways. His smile was wide, but his belly was wider. Yet, one by one, they plucked out a feather each and built him a pair of wings. Before they left for the sky, they agreed that each bird will use its real name when the sky god called them to eat. But Ijapa, the tortoise's mind was already plotting. Friends, he said sweetly, for today's occasion, let us all bear one aim, all of you. So when the sky god serves the feast, he will say, this is for all of you, and we shall all eat together in unity. The birds, thinking it was wise, agreed. When they arrived, the sky god clapped his mighty hands, and the table stretched from one end of the heavens to the other. The aroma alone could make a hungry man cry. The sky god smiled and said, Welcome, all of you. This food is for all of you. Before anyone could move, Ijapa had already jumped forward. That is me, he shouted. He sat, grabbed the pottage, and began to eat like one who hadn't seen food for years. He drank, he laughed, and when the birds came near, he waved them off. Wait for your turn, my friends. The sky god said it is for all of you, and I am all of you. The birds were furious because the tortoise had deceived them with his cunning mind. They watched as he licked the plates clean. When it was time to return home, not one bird offered to help him. They snatched back their feathers, and Ijapa stood alone in the sky, his belly full, but his heart trembling. He looked down and saw the white head beneath him. Wife, he called. Wife, my dear wife, spread out all the soft things in the house. Mats, pillows, clothes, for I am falling. But his wife, poor woman, misheard him. She thought he said, bring out all the hard things, pestles, mortars, and stones. So she did just that. When Ijapa jumped, he came crashing down. The sky shook. Its shell shattered into pieces. It was like a nightmare to him. As he lay there, staring at the cracked pieces of his shell, Ijapa finally understood. No feast is worth losing your wings. Suddenly, he remembered the sky god and begged him to mend his shell. The kind-hearted sky god took pity on him and sent a healing wind to bind his shell back together. But the cracks never disappeared, and that is why the tortoise shell is cracked till today. Each time my grandmother finishes the story, she would always take a relieved breath and say, My dear Asake, the one who eats alone dies alone. Greed is a hole that can never be filled. Greed makes a man forget his own limits. It makes him think he is the world itself, and in the end, it breaks him slowly and completely. The moral lesson of this story: cleverness without conscience is a curse. Greed may lift you high, but it will never let you land safely. You see, my grandmother used to say, every story carries another story inside it, like a yam inside the soil. And just like the tortoise cracked shell, every wound has a reason. Some are caused by greed, and some by betrayal. The next story I'm about to share will show how trust, once broken, can haunt a heart forever. Stay with me because this one will make you think of loyalty, friendship, and the pain of being wrongly accused. The second story for today, titled Why the Dog Barks at Night. When the world was still young, the dog and the leopard were best friends. They hunted together, shared meals together, and even raised their children side by side. But one day, something changed. The leopard grew envious of the dog's loyalty to humans. "You sit by the fire with them," he said. "You guard their homes and lick their hands. Have you forgotten you are wild like me?" The dog smiled and said, "It is not a weakness to love those who feed you. It is wisdom to stay where your heart feels peace." The leopard didn't like that answer. His pride burned hotter than the midday sun. So one night, he crept into the village. He found the chief's barn full of smoked meat and whispered to himself, "Let me see if the dog is truly loyal." He stole some meat, scattered the rest, and left dog tracks near the door. At sunrise, the chief saw the mess and shouted, "Dog! You ungrateful creature! After all I have given you." The dog tried to explain, but no one listened. Shame and sorrow filled his heart. That night, he sat outside the compound, staring at the moon, and began to bark. He barked in pain, barked in protest, and barked to the heavens. Since that day, every night when the world is quiet, the dog's spirit remembers that false accusation, and he still barks at the darkness, calling for the truth to be heard. When I think of that story, I remember how quickly people judge, how words can wound more deeply than claws. The moral lesson of this story: when trust is broken by lies, even silence cannot heal the wound. If you're still here with us till this point, it shows how much you enjoy stories like this, stories with morals and values, which is why you should subscribe to this channel for more. And that brings us to the next story for today, titled The King's Three Daughters. There was once a mighty king who had three beautiful daughters. Their laughter could lift a weary heart, and their presence was said to bring blessings to the land. One evening, as the sun melted into gold, the king called his three daughters to his courtyard. He wanted to know who loved him the most. "My daughters," he said gently, "tell me how much you love your father." The eldest smiled and said, "Father, I love you more than all the gold in your palace." The king smiled. He was pleased to hear that. The second daughter bowed and said, "Father, I love you more than all the jewels in the world." The king smiled wider. He was pleased to hear that as well. The youngest daughter, whose name was Abeni, thought for a moment. Golds and jewels are precious, but not priceless. And because of how priceless her love was for her father, she said quietly, "Father, I love you like salt." The king frowned. "Salt? What kind of answer is that? Gold shines, jewels sparkles, but salt?" He waved his hand angrily. "You shame me, Abeni. Leave my sight until you learn how to love me properly." Abeni wept as she left the palace. Days turned into weeks. Then, one evening, when the king's cook prepared his favorite stew, he forgot to add salt. The food smelled delicious, but when the king tasted it, he spat it out. "What is this? It has no flavor." Then he understood. Gold may glitter, but it cannot make food taste good. Jewels may sparkle, but they cannot soothe a weary tongue. Salt is small and humble, yet without it, life loses its flavor. He sent riders across the land to find Abeni and begged her to return home. When she arrived, he placed a hand on his chest and said, "My daughter, now I know. The purest love is not loud or shiny, but quiet and essential. My grandmother would always look at me and whisper, 'Asake, when people don't understand your kind of love, don't change it. Just wait. Life will teach them.'" The moral lesson of this story: true love is not measured by appearance, but by the depth of its presence. These stories may sound simple, but each one carries a piece of truth that still lives in us. The tortoise reminds us to stay humble. The dog teaches us the pain of broken trust. And Abeni shows us the quiet strength of true love. Our ancestors did not have books or classroom, yet their story taught more than many lectures could. They knew that to tell a story is to plant a seed in the soul. So as you listen today, remember, every folktale you hear is not just for children. It is a mirror showing us who we are and who we could become. If this story touched your heart, stay with me here on African Tales by Asake, because this fire will keep burning, story after story, lesson after lesson, until every heart remembers the wisdom of our ancestors.